What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Friday indeed. It was almost a very happy Friday, very nice night. Really felt like I was going to take down not the biggest one, but the box out for 50K. It looked like a great shot. I'm actually we got Sheets' screen up there up there right now, but I think I'm going to probably share mine for a minute and just go over a couple things that I thought were interesting before we get into tonight's slate, because it was sort of how you play DFS these days. You have to make adjustments based on late information and news and who's in and who's out. We didn't know about John Wall, obviously. That led those of us who had money left to play Kevin Porter, which is a slam play, and would have been probably 70% owned if people had the whole day to talk about it. But he ended up only 15% owned in situations like that, and he actually wasn't in my best lineup. So, but let's get into it. I'm gonna pull up my thing from yesterday before we're just gonna spend a couple minutes on this. And it's not to vent frustration, it's to talk about process. And it's been so long since I've shared my screen on here, I'm actually forgetting how to do it. So maybe they're not letting me do it because Sheets is up there. Is that possible?
Oh, you want me to stop sharing?
Oh no, that'll let me do it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you have to. Yeah, we need you to stop sharing so I can do it real quick.
Okay.
Here we go. And I'm just gonna pull this up, and you can see that, right?
Yeah.
So these are the ones from yesterday. Don't get me into the payout structure. We know what we're getting into. I understand it. You play these tournaments. This is not poker, which even poker's people complained about not being balanced enough. But these ones, you get 50,000 for first. That goes to 15, 5, and 3. So it's a very huge payout drop. So look, we've got one thing that did happen that I forgot to mention, by the way. Do you know that there was a point, I don't know if it was the end of the quarter or what, I wasn't watching the game because I was a little bit, doing my sweating, walking around, pacing thing. And Kawhi Leonard had a tip in that would have put him at enough to put me in a tie with the human Cespedes, because he would have put him in a double-double. So I was actually in first place tied with him, and then they took away the rebound and bucket. So it must have been after a shot clock or something, or after the end of the quarter. I don't know which one it was. That was an exciting moment because it would have given me a shot. But the truth is the game blew out. I still got plenty from Kawhi in this spot. Harden obviously had a little bit of a down game. But what I tried to do with this, and then my 888, which I'll show real quickly after, is I tried to, I didn't feel comfortable. In the 888 at the end of the day, I really wanted to try and find a run back if I was going to play 4 Dallas guys. But I didn't want to play Horford. I was very married to playing Capella. I talked about it all day, and I thought he was the best play on the board. And for 2.5 quarters, it looked like he was 40 fantasy points with 5 minutes to go in the third, ends up at 43. Sort of a fluky situation there. Also missed a double-double by 1 point, missed a few free throws that would have gotten him there. So that was frustrating in my 888. But over here, I ran it back with the Horford and Harden situation. And then I did play Kawhi, who I talked about quite a bit. He was in 50% of my lineups. And Kawhi had 38 in the first half. It just, the third quarter, it was they blew him away, and it was the Paul George quarter instead of the Kawhi quarter. So it was a little frustrating from that perspective.
Bring up the 888, because I think you made a really important point regarding your swap, which I think is worth discussing, because I think you did absolutely the right thing.
Yeah, I'll jump over to that. But yeah, so just that was it's nice to win those things. It's nice to have good nights and all that stuff. But it's still a little frustrating. Golf's starting to get a little bit better, at least. But it's a little frustrating. It felt like one of those where it could have been a win. Sheets knows this. Like you don't get a chance to win in a landslide very often. And there was a chance that I could have won that one going away with the way things were shaking out if we got full Kawhi run on that one. And then if I made one different decision over here and and Capella keeps going in the fourth. Okay, so later on, so what I was going to do, I was not going to play Tobias Harris for one thing. I made it very clear all day that I wasn't going to play Tobias Harris. When I have Kyrie Irving at 1%, first of all, that alone almost made me immediately want to switch and go over, because I was like, okay, if Kyrie gets there, if he doesn't get there, I'm going to be, it doesn't matter. Like he's a 1% play. I can play the chalk along with it if I like it enough. But the truth is, he went off. He had he ended up with 31 in the first half by the time this Philly game started. So, and then I had Capella with 30 plus at the half. So it looked like, okay, all of a sudden I had to switch I actually took Kawhi out of here, and it actually still benefited me a little bit though, because I was going to play Kawhi. I had Olynyk at power forward, and I'm honestly trying to remember who my other forward was, but it would have been about 6 less fantasy points, whatever. But I wanted to get Kevin Porter Jr. in no matter what. I held out the Boban thing in case he was going to start. I was going to split him up, one in the 88 and one in the 888. The 888 I was going to play Kevin Porter. The 88 I was going to play Boban. But we got no Boban starting. I decided to go this route. I did leave 400 on the table here, and you could argue that that was a that was a mistake because I didn't play Richardson. And my thinking was this: I knew Tim Hardaway Jr. was projected to take. I did there's a site I actually found last night that had a shot projection thing, and it had Tim Hardaway at 18 to, I think it was 18 or 19 shots, and they had Josh Richardson at 10. And I felt like that was about accurate if you take their history in that situation. Richardson had the bigger game. Hardaway shot the ball terribly, was 3 for his first like 14, but ended up getting there and having a nice game and everything. But I still liked what I did though. I did take the chalkier route, taking the Harris Porter situation after finding out that I had the Kyrie or figuring out that Kyrie and Capella were so low owned and already off to great starts. So I really liked my standpoint from there. I liked my stance and taking a little bit more chalk. Now in these small field, big buy-in tournaments, you should be playing the chalk a lot of the time. I was okay with taking what I thought would be a sure 40 from Harris, but I didn't want that for a large field tournament. But anyway, the late swaps worked out really, really well for me. And, it's unfortunate that I didn't get a little more from Capella. And it's unfortunate that I didn't make that move over to Josh Richardson, but I did make that move over on the 88, which he was in my winning lineup on the 88. So I had him split up enough, but anyway,
I want to dive into one other thing about this.
Yeah.
So when you told me, I actually looked on my own at the 888 when I wanted to see how you were doing it. And at the time that I looked, right, Capella had like infinite, Kyrie had infinite. They were both like 0% owned. And it was funny because when I looked, I saw Milton was basically busting as far as I was concerned, right? And Olynyk was doing like fine, you know what I mean? He wasn't like whatever. I mean, he didn't smash until I guess a little bit later. And when I was about to type to you, it's a shame that Milton's busting. You probably don't really have any chance to win or something like that. And then I was thinking about what you said about well, I swapped to Harris, and then it brought up something you just mentioned. It really depends on what tournament you're in. Like if this were if this were like the 8 or something like that,
yeah.
If you have Shake Milton, that's you're not winning that. You know what I mean? Right. Like you can't win that. So in that case, you wouldn't want to switch to Tobias Harris. But because this is a tournament where you can win with a score under 4,000, right? Yeah. Then you did the right thing, and that's a real interesting subtlety. You know what I mean?
That was actually the first. Actually, those were the same game that Harris and Milton won. So it was actually that game started at 5 at 8 Eastern.
Oh, okay,
so,
okay.
But I hear what you're saying totally. Like I know what you mean though. Like I would have definitely done things differently had, let's just say hypothetically, Milton was on a different team that started early.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I would have gone that route. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right.
And the other thing is and I probably would have gotten away from as much Brunson as I, I had Brunson absolutely everywhere. But yeah, I think that it was a good lesson, like just on, how to approach this. And honestly, I did run a little bit lousy at the end with Capella and with this Philly game turning a little bit too much of a blowout. Milton did end up kind of almost getting there enough. So I guess that was good, but it was a little frustrating. And then it was weird because you're rooting, at the end, you're rooting against Kevin Porter for my other lineup, and I'm rooting for Kevin Porter for this lineup. So it's I knew the other one was bigger, but it was a good night overall. A nice little whatever, I think 6 or 7x on the overall between both sites, and I'm happy with it. I just it would have been nice to take one down, but maybe we'll do that tonight. So Sheets, I stopped my screen share. Bunch your fires up whenever you're ready, and we can discuss the slate.
1 sec. Okay.
All right.
1 second. So we're still trying to figure out the best way to present the material. We're having a nice peaceful conversation back and forth at DraftKings about. I guess they're afraid, man. They see put out great players like Harris English and Xander Schauffele, that they're afraid that like people are going to win too much money playing them. I guess so. I don't know. I feel I get you. I get it. But no, in seriousness, I mean, we want to do the right thing. We want to give you guys good content. We want to show you process without violating rules, and we'll get it right.
Yeah, I think that we're trying. We're at DraftKings. If you're out there, we've literally asked the question, what can we do and what can't we? And we can't get exactly a straight answer. So what we're going to do,
we're getting there though.
we'll pop in some plays, and what we're going to do, but we just won't fill out a full roster. I'll say guys that I really like. We still can do all that stuff like every other site does. We just can't fill out full rosters. That's the way we're going to treat it for now anyway. And that's what we've been told based, or what we're understanding is based on everything RG does and all the other sites and based on the past. And we're just going to be in compliance with whatever they want us to do. So
the value again today is in Texas, right? It's in Houston and in San Antonio. It's probably the same type of thing. So we'll get to that. But let's start with, I presume. Oh, by the way, I would like to tell you what season it was last night. Now, wasn't it actually his season? But I just, and there's literally no way anybody could have played him. Okay, and it's not like he got like 100x, he got like 9x. But Al Horford was in, so you couldn't play him, and Roby was in, and all these guys were in. And somehow Moses Brown.
Oh, that's right.
It was his season. He had 8 points and 12 boards. And in a career high, I imagine, 19 minutes. So good for him.
Nice for Moses Brown. And that's and again, a guy you coached against, right?
Yep, good for him.
Right. Love it.
So in any case, so Philly is I presume Embiid is back. And if Embiid is back, he is probably going to rate to be a smash play. So that's the first thing. Second thing is again on the Washington side, Beal is questionable, right?
Yep.
So if Beal is questionable, if he's out, then we are in Russell Westbrook territory. So right off the bat in the first game, and I shouldn't say right, I mean, like, there's a bunch of games start at the same time. And by the way, guys, it's 8 o'clock tonight, first game.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. And I'm glad I saw that because I have to record. So Philly, so Westbrook's going to be a good play, and Embiid is going to be a good play. Aside from that, I don't know. I'd like to say that these guys are still good plays with Simmons out, right? So once again, I'm looking at Danny Green, at I don't know, Tobias Harris again maybe, and I don't know. I'm not getting to the other guys yet. I guess they priced up Shake Milton to 5,800. I guess that's really it for now.
Well. Okay, so I actually think there's some value to playing, like, so there could be value enough to where we might consider Thibault. Like, just because, he played 28 minutes last night. If he ends up starting tonight, I think he should play minutes. And this is the kind of matchup where he can get there without doing much. I mean, look, he had 5 steals last night and people go, oh, he got 5 steals, but Washington has the 3rd most turnovers in the NBA. So that's, he also made all 3 of his threes. I'm not saying he's going to put up 30 fantasy points again, but maybe 20 plus fantasy points if he's going to play 28 minutes doesn't seem like a crazy amount to ask for, even though he is a low producer. So just keep him in mind for potential value. Again, we're going to play Tobias Harris on Fanduel, I believe. I just double checking the price. Oh no, never mind. We don't have to play him over there. We can. He's actually in play more over there than DraftKings for me. But nobody else who stands out from a DraftKings perspective on the Philly side with the prices raised. I do think if you're playing a bunch of long shot tournaments and stuff like that, I would go right back to Shake Milton. I know he only played 24 minutes. Again, sort of a blowout last night. You could argue he played some of the blowout run, depending on how you look at it, I guess. But they felt pretty comfortable with Seth going as the point guard, which made me sort of shy a little bit more away from it. And Seth did a nice job, had 7 assists last night. Again, limited minutes because the blowout. But Seth still, I guess you'd call him still in play, but at 5.6, maybe a little more than I want to spend for, but it's not terrible against Washington. It's actually probably in play. But on FanDuel at 5K, I think he's a little bit more interesting to me. But both Shake and here or there. I'm curious how the starting lineup will shake out, but shake out. I don't expect Shake obviously to start, but I still think that there's upside for these minutes. And I think in a tight game down the stretch, I could see him really exploiting this Wizards defense. So I do kind of like, I like him. I don't know. I like him a little bit on FanDuel, I guess I would say, because he's on FanDuel. Oh my God, they made him 5 point. Wow. I had him at 4.8. I don't know what was going on with my initial notes here. So it's a long shot tournament play, I guess, at that point. All right, Washington side, I do think that it's really tricky with the bigs just because they have them and they're gonna rotate him. My guess is that Robin Lopez gets the minutes. I don't think it's the right slate to use him for value. I want to say if Bradley Beal plays, I will be loading up on Bradley Beal. People may not remember, Bradley Beal had the highest scoring game of the season against this Philly team earlier this season. And without Ben Simmons on the court, it could only add to things being better for them. I mean, he's not going to score more than 60 points. And it was obviously in quite his own that night. But I do think that he's a viable play at 9.7 to run back with Embiid if he plays. And I would be happy to play Westbrook if he doesn't. Westbrook's still in play either way, but this is not the kind of matchup in general that I'm looking for Westbrook. Although I would say he looks great in real life to me lately. He's been playing much, much better basketball. It's just you don't really want him against teams that have pretty good rim protection, that force turnovers a lot. So Westbrook, if Beal is in as of right now, I'm sort of treating with less priority than Embiid. That's where I'm
at. Anything else?
One other guy, I do think you can make an argument for the Bertans thing because he can get hot, but I think maybe Rui is in play on Fanduel at 4.8, but I don't really see anybody else you need to have. And Rui's let us down so many times. I think people are off of him. He can definitely get there. It's just been a really, really rough stretch for him.
Just watch the the news. It's the first game, so I mean you'll know about Beal pretty handily.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland, New Orleans. I'm not getting to a whole hell of a lot there. I mean, I'm looking at Zion and Ingram as passable spend ups, I guess, but that's pretty much about it. I wasn't really getting to too much there. You like anything in this game at all?
It's really hard to. Brandon Ingram, man, that guy really he just derailed all the FanDuel for me, I guess. And I had him with like other guys who weren't great either. But I don't know why I didn't just go all the way with our guy. We talked about it. I had a lot of them, but what's his name for Toronto last night? Powell, as you called it, as we talked about it, he just always gets there, in those spots. I do think that Zion should smash even on the back-to-back, and that's pretty much I don't know how much of him I'll get to at this moment, but he's definitely the one who stands out the highest on my list. I didn't expect him to get blown out by Minnesota last night, so I was a little bit confused there. Although I was happy. I did have a lot of Anthony Edwards on FanDuel, which sort of saved a couple lineups, but I think that it's just Zion, and that's pretty much it for me over here. It's a huge bump to Cleveland, but you get Kevin Love back now. Larry Nance is there.
Is that true? I didn't know all these guys are back.
They're supposed to be back. This is the game Kevin Love is supposed to be back for, but probably not going to play many minutes. So it just sort of X's everyone else out. Colin Sexton's price is crazy. I do think, I mean, look, if you want to get into Darius Garland being a play, he certainly could get there. I just think we'll probably find some better spots, and that's pretty much it. This is not exciting, not an exciting game.
Anybody? Okay. Denver.
We could find something. I mean, there's really, I guess
you don't have to play anybody from that game.
Well, we keep an eye on Steven Adams, whether he'll play the back-to-back. That's what I would. That's where we can find something in this game possibly. And Josh Hart is just he's just active enough at 5K to consider as a long shot play. But if Adams is out, it's going to open things up a little bit.
You know what's surprising just a little bit? I mean, not that big of a deal, but Hernan Gomez didn't play like 4 minutes last night in like a 30-point blowout.
Huh.
I don't know.
That is a little surprising, which makes me feel like that. I actually think that might mean he's just starting tonight. But also Adams only played. Oh, he played 28 minutes in the blow. Okay, yeah, I would be surprised if Adams plays. Also, they're hopefully they're figuring out that maybe they're a little bit better when Adams is not playing, and the problem is they insist on having this big man next to Zion because they have no rim protection. But honestly, if I were them. You really want to play players against Cleveland, even though they play slow. They're so sloppy. They get their shots blocked the most, but it's just hard to find who that guy is. I mean, I guess Lonzo might be more in play than I thought, but I don't know. It's just to me, it feels like a gross game kind of until we hear about Steven Adams being out and everything opens up.
You like Any chance you like Jokic more than Embiid or no?
I think there's a really good argument for playing him over Embiid.
Yeah.
It's a similar price. I actually think that like take away any Embiid. Look, you got to understand that Embiid is a narrative driven guy too. Embiid wants to win this MVP. He's going to go out there and try and win it, and he's going to beat the hell, and he's got the better matchup and all those things. But Jokic, nobody touches the ball more than Jokic on their team. There's no way you could argue that on like, well, I don't know if that's true. I don't think the difference between them is as much as the ownership will dictate. So I think Embiid, let's say he's 3 times as owned as Jokic tonight, which I think is really possible. That's probably too much. I do prefer Embiid, but I think there's a really good argument to use Jokic as a pivot. And if there's a way we can find value and we get the value because of these so many back-to-backs, maybe then we can try and play those two guys together potentially even. But I do think Jokic is a great pivot off of Embiid as a tournament play, just from a game theory standpoint, not from I expect him to outproduce him. But it's, Jokic is fine in this matchup too. It's actually, against Joval, I have no problem playing him over Embiid, especially considered the ownership gap that I expect to see.
It's just like a 0-game slate. I don't like anybody in this game. So
we may have to change our stand. Maybe we'll have to revisit it because maybe we'll have to change our standards of what we're expecting. I guess
I like Morant.
I like Morant.
So Morant and Jokic. Is there anything else? I mean, like everybody's healthy, right? I mean, like, or everybody's priced well. I mean, I don't really see anything else that stands out.
No, nothing stands out. That's for sure. The only one that I'm going to go back to, and while it didn't work the other day. I mean, he played more minutes than they had him projected for, but it was only
Clark, you mean?
Yeah, there's upside on those minutes potentially, especially against a team like Denver, who tends to, they play. I don't play two bigs, but they play. They play two like. They play a power forward actually. I think that's what I would say. They have the Millsaps and all those guys of the world. So I do think that Brandon Clark at 5.1 is a guy I'll have on my list, and I love playing guys that are they're just way behind him. And I'll tell you what, another guy whose minutes are going to go up and up. So far, they've been wrong about his minutes 0 times, but they've only been off by a couple minutes. But Justice Winslow is going to start getting more and more run at some point. And I just think he's better than the other guys Memphis has. And the problem is Memphis just has so many bodies and they're all playing really, really well. So it's hard to know what they would do. I mean, Desmond Bane has been great lately, but I just think there's too many of these guys to like. I'm not going to do Winslow tonight, but I do think going forward, we're going to see a bigger role for him. Brandon Clark is the one I have the most interest in. Although I would say that like maybe we're overlooking Dillon Brooks. His minutes tend to be shorter because he gets in foul trouble every game. He can get hot. He has a ceiling. So at 5,200, I would rank it. I guess I would rank it Morant, Clark, then Brooks. You could argue about Brooks being a better play than Clark, but if Clark plays the minutes, he should be better per minute than Brooks is.
So Orlando, San Antonio is important bit of value here, and just this is where a lot of ownership is going to come from, whatever it is. But before we do that, first on the Orlando side, like one of the few good things I did last night was I actually did play Chase on Randall. I got 30 minutes out of Chase on Randall somehow. Mm-hmm. And he got 24 fantasy points. He was pleasant surprise. Didn't expect 30 minutes, but that was good. And then the Opeachy or whatever, he did okay. He had 25, 26 minutes, and he was fine too. So on the Orlando side, those 2 bits of value may not be as important today. And Vucevic again is kind of an interesting pivot off those other 2, off of Jokic and Embiid. But the real meat is going to come from San Antonio with the DeRozan out. So I feel I should just ask you, of the 3 guys that, at least for me, are just kind of obvious, how would you rank them? And and would you add anybody like between Keldon Johnson, Derek White, and DeJounte Murray?
I just want to put a huge warning label. Be extremely careful with anybody you play from San Antonio.
Okay.
Popovich is such a good coach that he does a different thing these days. He is playing. It's not exactly hot hand. If they're playing well, he'll stick with that lineup like literally forever. And then when it stops, they'll make a switch. I got killed. I mean, look, 2 nights ago, 2 games since the All-Star break, I've had winning nights, but I would have had a really monster night if Trey Lyles had just gotten even his 20 minutes of run. I finished 18th with 2 fantasy points from him and only like 15 off the lead, like off the win.
That's quite a game log that Derek White has in his last game.
Yeah, he was, I mean, absolutely like horrendous. I mean, by the way, those 8 fantasy points came late. He was like in the negative after like his first 19 minutes, which actually makes him a good play to me. Like, I mean, sure. The problem is he's going to project as a good play as well. So I'm not going to be surprising anyone. He and Keldon Johnson would be the guys you want, but like, just be careful. They have a lot of interchangeable pieces. And like last time it was Rudy Gay who took over. And Lonnie Walker might be every bit as good of a play as any of these guys. The only one who you can feel so secure with the minutes and usually the production, or even that, you know, is Murray. So, God, ranking these guys is really tough.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned. I mean, like Rudy Gay played 27 minutes last night on the back, and so I'm not as concerned.
2 nights ago.
Oh, that was 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, actually. So yeah, I mean, he could play. So you don't think any of them are particular locks, but if you did have to rank them, like who would be your favorite?
I think I would rank them White or Johnson. No, I rank them White, then Johnson, Murray.
Is there anybody else? I mean,
well, Gay.
Oh, okay.
A little bit, but I don't know. I mean, it's just because it's kind of a weird slate. I think I would go Lonnie Walker next, maybe, and hope I get the upside game from him. I also wouldn't be surprised if you saw something weird. Like I would wait. I would hope we would get a starting lineup. We probably won't before the game starts.
No way.
You do have Vassell back, which is just to take up more minutes, but some of these guys are going to get there. It's really tough with San Antonio, man. They are not your fantasy friend. Maybe we're overlooking the obvious, and maybe, I mean, Podol was awful the other night against Dallas, and he was awful the last game before the break. But I don't know.
That's a healthy price tag for him.
It is. I'm just trying to find something because I don't feel great about any of this. Even though look, I'm definitely going to be playing 1 or 2 San Antonio guys at minimum. I just don't feel like the lock part of it feels weird. I do think DeJounte Murray would be the safest, but Derek White and Keldon Johnson per point per dollar wise have probably the most upside. I'm not going to touch the Patty Mills thing because his minutes pretty much always his role pretty much always stays the same. I like him on small slates. But I would take the Lonnie Walker shot ahead of him.
There's no way they have Vassell out for COVID, first game back, throw him in for 28 minutes, right?
I don't think so, but like, I mean, they haven't been doing that. They've been actually sort of bringing their guys back a little bit slower, but they don't have those options as much anymore. And Vassell is like the guy but he can get hot, and maybe they do play him. You know, he's in play along with the rest of these guys. I just don't think he's not awesome or anything. But White, Keldon Johnson, then Murray would be my first look favorites, I guess, here. And I don't like anybody on Orlando personally, even though you're supposed to, right? Like, if we get somebody out, which we very well may. I'm guessing Aaron Gordon on a back-to-back. If he had a minutes limit, maybe they play him on the back-to-back coming back from injury, but I don't think so.
What did he play? 14.
He's only played 14 minutes, so maybe he does. I don't know. It doesn't. Even if he's out, I don't have like a guy who's a smash. I hear there's a lot of teams interested in Kem Birch right now, and maybe he's an interesting play to go a little bit different. Definitely, we've seen a lot from him. We've seen Vooch also underperform in back-to-backs, although he was good in the last one. He's historically been very bad on back-to-backs, and we still don't know. I mean, Terrence Ross is supposed to play. He didn't play last night, but if he doesn't play, that'll open up more. There's just like a lot of muck with this team for me. So we're gonna, unless there's anybody out, I'm not gonna have a ton of interest in the Orlando side of this. So I actually think Kem Birch would be a better play than Okeke, except for he doesn't have the forward eligibility.
So I know that life doesn't always work this way, but not to be overly sarcastic, but so Jimmy Butler got a price decrease and he's going back to Chicago. I don't know.
And he's been the nuts. I mean,
life isn't always that easy, and he is coming off a 62-point game, which I don't like, but
he's been, all of his games have been monstrous lately. Pretty much.
Yeah,
he's been great.
I think that's a really, really good spend, actually.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really popular too. I mean, I'm guessing he's got to be, right? Like, if people were playing him last night, they should be playing him tonight. We still have the same I'm trying to figure out these minutes distributions because some of these early projections are a little confusing to me, Sheets. Why do we think that?
Who?
I mean, it was weird to me that Precious didn't play much yesterday at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what happened with that?
I don't know. They played Chris Silva some minutes, and he's getting projected for some again. They played Okpala. They started Okpala, and he played some minutes, but
hang on. We'll
not enough to where it feels like I actually watched their minutes pretty good. And
no, we'll do this right now. So Okpala started.
Yeah.
Alongside of Olenek, and then Precious did. Yeah, Precious. Silva came in for Precious in the second quarter there, and then Precious didn't see the court again.
Let's see. We have the score in that game around the time.
He missed free throw, turnover, rebound, then he made it too.
Okay, so I'm going to say something that I might regret, but I think that I really wish they didn't raise the price on him. I think Precious is in play.
Okay.
After the 4 minutes he played yesterday. It's a back-to-back. You might get like an Iguodala out tonight. That's another thing. And one thing that's funny is Precious, while he was center only on DraftKings, and I don't know if he still is, but until recently he's been only small forward eligible on FanDuel. Now he's power forward eligible only on FanDuel. Yeah. So, but again, I'm sort of like the main things here are Butler and Kelly O, right? Like that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I do think that Hero definitely makes sense as a tournament play, and Dragic is not my favorite thing to use him on a back-to-back, but I mean, I love the matchup.
He might sit, no?
He might sit too. Like that's true. But his minutes, they keep at a steady pace, so I could see him playing the back-to-back. If he sits, I mean, then we're going to be playing a bunch of these guys. But I currently have all these guys on my lineup, and also the way that the Bulls defend, even Duncan Robinson should be well in play just for his 3-point shooting ability at this 4.7 price tag. So I would rank them in terms of priority: Butler, Kelly O, Hero, probably none, then Robinson, actually. Probably Robinson, then none. Dragic, maybe too speculative that I'm thinking he might be out, but it's a good point. Like he really might. Miami needs to keep winning games, but they've been doing pretty well with Butler at the helm sort of this. So
I'm not getting them much on the Chicago side. I mean, you could always play Levine for, a sprinkle or whatever, but I'm not really getting them much. You like anything over there?
Stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna just like, he's not the fantasy guy that you want him to be yet, but he's always at a nice price. He's always gonna play plenty of minutes. So I never mind taking shots with Patrick Williams on sort of thin slates, but it doesn't feel great. And it's obviously not a great matchup, but Levine tends to play better in these kinds of tough matchups. I just don't think I can get to paying for him.
Yeah.
With these other guys right now. And then we'll see what happens with Markkanen. He just played his first game in a while too, off the injury. So he played 28 minutes last night. I don't know how much they're going to throw him out there tonight. So if he's out, that could open up some other things. Porter might be out as well. In that case, I think Patrick Williams will become a better play than he is currently. But still, it's not, if Porter and Markkanen are out, I think maybe you can take a shot on Garrett Temple if he's starting. But really, it's not very pretty on their side of it.
Although I'm moving ahead. Although it doesn't say anything on the DraftKings slate, I've been reading that they're probably going to sit Oladipo for Houston and play Wall.
That's what they've been doing.
Okay.
They're going to get smoked either way.
Yeah. So first question is when Wall plays, I mean, how does that going to impact Kevin Porter? What do you do with that?
Kevin Porter is playing. You're playing Kevin Porter. I'm sorry. Like, I don't, as of this morning, I don't know how you don't play this guy. Like, first of all, I'm a huge Kevin Porter guy. I understand that there might be things that I haven't seen behind the scenes. This guy has got like legitimate, like he was a top 3, top 2 type guy in the draft. He just had mental problems and had some issues at SC when he was in college, and didn't really get the chance in Cleveland, partially due to injury, partially due to not wanting to be with the team. but boy, I mean, he's got talent, and they don't have any, and he'll play in blowouts. I like he and KJ Martin a ton. They just don't have enough bodies. You're not going to have Eric Gordon tonight. So KJ Martin, Porter, and McLemore should all be on your list. As far as I'm concerned, McLemore would be the least interesting of the bunch, but definitely in play. Even your boy Sterling Brown. They have very limited bodies. Unless
what do they have? Eight? What do they have? 8 players?
Yeah, unless they have more bodies that they bring out, which I think they will. By the way, I don't think this is going to stay how it is. But I really do like all those guys. And then just from how are you not? You need somebody to match up with Rudy Gobert. They don't have anybody.
No, you don't. The game, they're just. It's a scrimmage. You know what I mean? Like they're going to play Patton 100 minutes, right?
That's what I was thinking. But then I actually think that it might go more towards Lamb on the back-to-back, and if it's a blowout. So that's the real sneaky play. But
wait, I don't even know who you're talking about.
Anthony Lamb. He's their he's like a 4-5. But I mean, I don't know. It's only a Patton. I mean, look, yeah, they're going to try and play Patton. I just don't know. I don't know how productive he can be at 4.9. I was more interested in Lamb at 3.3, but I don't think I'm either really going to play those guys. You go Porter Jr., then Martin, then McLemore, then Brown, in my opinion. And while John Wall may very well get there, I'm not playing him in this matchup. I don't see any reason to. They're 17-point underdogs, and that's probably too light.
I've got to search for this. I have. It's not like the greatest flex in the world, but I might have a picture of Martin dunking over my son. Maybe. So my son one summer went to IMG basketball camp for like a week or two. And I think there was one thing where I'm pretty sure it was KJ Martin who was just there horsing around, and he was like just basically dunking over everybody. Mm-hmm. And there might be a video. I might have a picture or video of KJ Martin. He would dunk over my son or my son's friend or something. I do remember the name, and I'm pretty sure that he was at IMG. You have to look at that. So I will definitely search for that. It's they have 8 guys, and there's literally no expectations. They're just gonna have fun and just get their asses kicked. That's kind of what's gonna happen. I'm in a struggle here because it goes against my nature, but I have to. It is going to be difficult to fade Kevin Porter. It just goes again, he played like a zillion minutes for a big minute ceiling, big point ceiling, having not played in forever and coming right back on a back-to-back at 80% ownership. However, the 8 guys makes it really tough to not. I mean, he's going to play, right? I mean, it's not like okay. He's going to. The only argument against again is because Wall playing means he's not going to be point guard.
He's not a point guard anyway.
But he brought the ball up like almost every time.
No, they had Tate bring the ball up sometimes, and they had Oladipo bring the ball up some.
Well, because I was sweating against him for in your box out
down the stretch. No, and you're right. When the game was out of hand, the blowout part of it, he definitely was.
Okay.
But the earlier part, and again, that's going to happen again tonight too. So it's not a bad point.
Yeah. So Porter, just in fairness, it's noon, right? And right now, Porter rates to be my best point per dollar play by a sizable amount. Second being Ben McLemore, actually. So
you have McLemore ahead of Martin, huh?
Right now, yeah.
I think they're close to me. Maybe you don't need the extra 500 savings or whatever. I guess that's true, but I do think that Martin. One thing I like about Martin is he'll rebound. And McLemore, you're relying on the 3-point shot. But at 3,500, I'm happy to rely on the 3-point shot. This guy can shoot me to 35 fantasy points. So, this is a very similar situation to me to Dallas last night in a lot of ways, even with Wall out there. These guys, at least 2 of these guys are going to get there. And then Sterling Brown is the other one who maybe people don't play as much because he's 4,500, but they're still probably going to play some of them. He's going to play plenty of minutes, and they're just going to have to do stuff. These guys have to play a million minutes if they're going to play these 8 bodies. So unless we hear about a few more opening up, you're going to want at least 2 players from Houston, in my opinion, even in this blowout.
You like, again, this is going to be the semi-sharp, obvious play of Utah, which is going to be Jordan Clarkson.
Yep.
But I think that again, if this game blows out, which I'm not, you know how I am, man. I'm not 100% sure it does. But
usually I'm with you, but I'm not going to be.
If and when it does, right? I think that like Clarkson is such a big part of this team now that they might not actually let him out there to run it. You know, I think 100%. It might be some other dude. I don't know who it is, but some other Utah guy that might be out. Maybe Clarkson doesn't get that 32 minutes of blowout run. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In this particular situation. But I mean, it certainly seems like the best play on the Utah side. I'm not getting to much. Conley's cheap enough, right? At 6,400.
Sure.
And to be honest, Gobert is pretty freaking cheap. As is, hey, you want to play Derek Favors at 3,200? Maybe he plays. Oh,
he might play. I mean, they are really. I mean, Derek Favors, I think he's hit 21 minutes, and that was the only game over 20 minutes all year. But once again, in 17 minutes, he probably puts up 20 fantasy points. So sure, he's in play.
But why wouldn't they play him in like the fourth? You know what I mean? If the game's over for the fourth quarter, is he like that old? I mean, like
he just has it's a little bit of an old body. I mean, there's no reason for them to play him. Like he's a part of their team too. Like they actually consider him a core part of their team. I would put him much more in that category than Clarkson. Well, Clarkson's more a core part of their team, but more in terms of protecting players. Like Clarkson, he's going to do his thing.
Okay. So it's okay. So let's say it's 81-52, right? At the end of the third quarter, something like that.
Sure.
91-62 at the end of the third quarter. If you're Quinn Snyder, who do you roll after?
It'll be Niang. Ingles always plays a little bit of that run, but not all of it. And then Royce O'Neal play a tiny bit of it. I think that we have more guys that are not being projected here because they don't. This is the 9-man rotation they run. If there's a monster blowout, that becomes a lot bigger than those nine guys, in my opinion. Let me double check real quick. I'm just gonna take a look at their roster because I actually think this is important. First of all, I do like Gobert. I think he can get there in 3 quarters. He's just really easily against this team. There's nobody to match up with him, and it's just every rebound. It was sort of my argument last night for Capella, and I predicted 20 rebounds. He ended up with 19, so he didn't quite get there. But this is the same thing. Yeah, I mean they've got Juwan Morgan, Mie Oni, Jarrell Brantley, Trent Forrest. Like they've got enough bodies they could throw in there if the game got super blowouty. But mostly if it's in the 20s, they're going to be the regular guys-ish. Oh, they also got Ilyasova now, who they're probably going to try and work in at some point. So yeah, I just don't think. I think maybe Clarkson and Gobert. Clarkson more on Fanduel, but Gobert I like on both sites. I think he has a big game, and it's just even in 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters, it's going to be hard for them to do anything with them at all, right? Like it's just there's no matchup here. Every mission, and also on top of that, they're sloppy. They attack the basket, and there's going to be a ton of missed shots. So,
and they can't make a 3. So,
yep, everything looks like a Gobert type of thing to me. Yep. Oh, by the way, Mason Jones may end up getting run tonight. I have to take a look at that one later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Indiana, LA Lakers. The first thing that stood out to me was that Malcolm Brogdon was 6,600 on FanDuel, I think. Mm-hmm. Or was that not even on DraftKings? I'm not even sure. But he looked really cheap. That was the first thing that I noticed. The other thing I noticed is, and that was like actually the only thing I really noticed. Like
on FanDuel, he's crazy. It's crazy price.
Yeah. Markieff Morris on DraftKings at 4,300 still rates to be a good play.
Mm-hmm.
And Kuzma, Schroeder. I mean, they're all, these guys are all fine. You got to tell me if you like LeBron here. You're the LeBron guy. And Jeremy Lamb, you want to try him? I don't know. I feel like I want to play something from this game. Aside from Brogdon, Mimo, I think Sabonis, is he a little cheaper on FanDuel than he usually is also?
He's he is. He's really cheap, and he's going to be really popular over there. I think they're both awesome. No, but I mean, they were in a blowout game their last game, and they both struggled, right? Like, and I think that sort of brought their prices back to reality. And hold on one. Sorry, that was my doctor. I mean, it's TJ McConnell on FanDuel. Maybe you could argue. Yeah. And by the way, you can play McConnell and Brogdon together. They're playing them together quite a bit. But it probably is a little thin. I really like, this is a more of a FanDuel game from the Indiana side for me personally.
Okay.
Miles Turner would probably be the most interesting on DraftKings, which is, it's not like it's a great matchup. I don't even really like him. I don't really know why I'm talking about him, but he's always got upside, like, for his price. It's just nobody else really does it for me here. If we had somebody out or anything like that happened, all these guys would get a huge bump up because this is their whole rotation. These are all the guys they ever play. But I just don't see it right now. Maybe a long shot Jeremy Lamb play. He's just not getting the run anymore. It just feels really thin and hasn't played 20 minutes in 5 games. And yeah, I think we probably skip them. I'm definitely on LeBron. I think you could argue LeBron is just behind Embiid tonight. That's my personal take. And I know, like, it feels weird because LeBron doesn't consistently produce or show the ceiling that the Jokic's show and whatnot. But I think he's on a mission. He actually came out and said, I'm on a mission. We're ready to get back to it. So take that for what it is. Anytime there's any little extra thing with LeBron, I got the All-Star game part wrong, which I was actually, made sense because he wanted to save himself, which was nice to see. But he's going to be aggressive. He's going to go out there and try and win his MVP. If this game stays competitive, which I feel like it will, I think LeBron should be pushing right around 55, 60, maybe even higher. And I really like him tonight. I think this is a really good LeBron spot. I also, as I always love to have my big spends late in the day if I can, allows you to do some different things in case anything else does happen, especially if we can get a couple guys in late. So I like the Gobert and LeBron. And then if you could play Embiid with double center it with Gobert, LeBron, and then figure out the value parts of Houston and whatnot, I think you could be in business. And then Schroeder is probably priced just about right on DraftKings, but definitely has the upside to get there. So I have no problem with playing him. This is not like the old days where Indy was just locking everybody up. They certainly aren't doing that anymore. But I think he's a better play on FanDuel. All these other guys, I think that you could argue on different slates would probably be better plays, but I do want to mention them because I don't think it's the worst idea to play Markieff Morris. This team, you're against a team that plays big, you would imagine that Morris would not only start, but probably play close to 30 minutes and with some upside. So I actually think Morris might be probably a better value than he'll get recognized for in this matchup because it is the multiple bigs and they're not going to put, LeBron plays this to stretch 4 for them, which takes Morris off the court or makes him play the 5 without Davis. But that's not going to happen because they're not going to put LeBron on Sabonis for like multiple possessions. They're just not going to do that. And they're not going to put him on Miles Turner, obviously. So that means more Markieff Morris to me. So I think Markieff Morris, you could say, would play probably 30 minutes and always has enough upside to get there at 4,300. So he's the value I like the best.
Okay, you want to take
FanDuel?
a quick look at FanDuel? Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, FanDuel, which does feel different today than DraftKings. Sheets, you want to start it off with the point guards?
Yeah, so
Hold on my sheet.
there's not I don't know, at first look, there wasn't a lot of raw points unless, but we got to watch, obviously, if Beal is out, then Westbrook, just there's a lot of raw points for him that doesn't really exist throughout the rest of the position, I think. Most of what I'm seeing is kind of like value stuff. Like, I mean, I mentioned, well, more middling stuff. You want to get DeJounte Murray, Brogdon. Ooh, what about a real sneaky Jamal Murray? How about that? That could be.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That could be something that very few people do. And then obviously Marco Carter-Williams is always a good player there. Sterling Brown. I don't know. By the way, we pick on FanDuel, but good. How did they know? By the way, it's a different position, but how did they know to price Kevin Porter up to like 5K?
Good job, FanDuel.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Westbrook. So I don't know. If you want to go middling, I would say Brogdon, Jamal Murray, or go up to Westbrook, I guess.
Yeah, interesting. Like the guys who stand out to me at first were Derek White and Michael Carter-Williams.
Okay.
I actually like Michael Carter. I'm getting on board the Carter-Williams thing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He's playing well. He's getting shots up. Very involved in the offense. Let me just take a look at his usage rate, which has been excellent. It was 33% yesterday, which is pretty amazing. 24 and 21 the 2 previous games. But and the rebounding numbers are good. It reminds me, he's looking like a little bit like the old Michael Carter-Williams, and they don't have a lot of other stuff. Now, if Ross is back, which we assume he is, it's going to cut into some of this usage and stuff a little bit, but at 4,900, I still like him. Brogdon's the main one for me, though. Brogdon, Westbrook, and I'm trying to find real quick. Jamal Murray, they did finally price down a little bit, but I think I would still just rather play Ja.
Okay.
I'm gonna ride and I'm gonna live on this. Ja's gonna have a monster second half of the year thing all year.
You know, as they say in Santa Barbara, you can play both of them. So
that's right. Yeah.
Play Morant and Murray. How about that?
Yeah, and there is a lot of different values at this position. I think that DeJounte will be like, the price might be a little sticker shock to people. Well, no, they'll probably play him because it's no DeRozan anyway. And I mentioned Schroeder already is a better play over here. We have to see about Dragic and that whole situation. But if I'm ranking him, I would go. I definitely like Michael Carter Williams. I don't know if this is the order because I'm still figuring that out. Michael Carter Williams, Ja, Westbrook. These are all different prices. These are the Derek White and Kobe White. And then Sterling Brown is your ultimate punt at
shooting guard. Like you said, with DraftKings, I think if Beal plays, I like Beal. He looks really freaking expensive at 10-3. So there you go. I'll try it.
I agree.
I like him. Other guys have like issues. Like Donovan Mitchell projects well, but it's going to be tough to get that ceiling in this environment. You know, Colin Sexton's a little bit cheaper, but he's got more bodies around him now, like you were mentioning, right? So Kevin Love is back. That's a little tough. Levine, I guess, again at 9,400. Okay. And then after that, you're into the value again. Now you're into Macklemore and that kind of stuff. Jordan Clarkson, as usual on Fanduel, is cheap. He's 5,500 over there. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah. So the Macklemore is cheap, 3,500. Patty Mills is better play over here at 3,900. I agree with everything said about Mitchell. Mitchell's going to be like 1,000,000% owned.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The matchup is going to show up as the best in the world. By the way, Mitchell will sometimes get a little bit of blowout run too, and could get there in very little time in this matchup. But I like Clarkson. I like Clarkson, Macklemore. I don't like his position as much as point guard, obviously. I like Tyler Hero, and I like what you said about Bradley Beal. That's pretty much my guys. Oh, and Seth Curry.
Well, oh God, these are so gross. So either at small forward, either LeBron, if you tell me that he's okay, Butler, Keldon Johnson, and then just, I hate to say this, but like vomit Brandon Ingram again at 7,700. That's where I'm at.
Did you mention What did you say, Martin and Porter?
I did not. Oh, I keep forgetting about Martin. I keep forgetting about these guys.
Yeah, Martin, I think, is like the chalkiest guy over.
Yeah, I guess so. Porter's fine.
Yeah, I'm totally good with Porter. I like that you're going to get probably a little bit lower ownership on him because this Terrence Ross should be back, 5,700, totally reasonable. Doug McDermott is too cheap at 3,900.
Yeah.
And Keldon Johnson. But I also really like paying up for LeBron and just getting the raw points or Butler. So mostly those are the values, and then those are the guys you're spending up for, in my opinion. The Brandon Ingram, you can definitely play him again and go back to him. He's going to have much lower ownership tonight, which is odd because it's a much worse slate. But I don't have any problem if you want to go right back to him.
Power forward, you can go back to Deshaun Tate. If you want to do that, you can go back to Tobias Harris if you want to do that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Sabonis is cheaper than he usually is. And those are my top guys.
Yeah, I think Sabonis is awesome, and I think that Zion is going to smash. That's mostly what I've got. Al-Farouq Amino being a little like minimum costy doesn't really make sense to me. He hasn't been like great or anything, but like he shouldn't be a minimum player. Like I don't know. It just struck me that he's really, really cheap.
You like Kuzma at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I do actually a little bit. Yeah, Kuzma, something different you can do over here. That's true. Actually, I kind of like that idea. But I think that Zion and Sabonis are my favorite plays with Jashawn Tate and probably Tobias Harris or Rudy Gay as the next two. And then I already mentioned Markieff Morris, who I think is an interesting play.
I think you go right back to Kelly Olynyk at 4,500
Yep.
at center. And if you don't want to do that, I think you know what I like? I like your, I mean, again, this is like 2% owned shit, but I mean, you could play Miles Turner, like you mentioned, at 6,200.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that.
Really cheap price for him for Fanduel because of the shot blocking upside he has.
I think what people are going to do is they're going to either play Kelly O, or wow, they priced Jokic at 11.7.
Yeah.
I don't, oh, man. They're not going to let Gobert go off low owned, right? Because of the blowout.
I'm trying to think about that for a second. I think he'll be medium owned. I think it'll go. I mean, Embiid's going to be the most popular for sure.
Oh, I forgot. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, Embiid will be, and then it'll go Kelly O, and then I would probably guess that it would be Gobert. Yeah, then it will be a big drop off to Jokic.
Yeah, Embiid's going to be really popular, I think. Yeah. I mean, if you don't play Kelly O, I mean.
Right.
Well, what is this? Is this one of those stupid things where you're not supposed to play Kelly O because you're supposed to play Embiid?
I think Embiid is the more popular play for sure.
Okay.
I mean,
no, but is that the better play? I mean, like what
between the two of them? I mean,
given what we know about the rest of FanDuel, you know what I mean?
Like, no, Embiid is clearly the best play on FanDuel in my opinion. But like, because I mean, he could put up 70 here and it wouldn't you wouldn't bat an eye. Like, it would just, he can win the position more unlike anybody else.
But in the context of the rest of the slate, like if you play Kelly O, what is that getting you? I mean,
there's tons of value. What do you mean?
That's what I mean. That's my point.
What's Kelly O getting you? Well, what Kelly O gets you is you can play the spend ups I mentioned at power forward, which I like Sabonis. Not as Sabonis. People think this matchup is bad. It's not. Without Anthony Davis, this is a really good matchup for him.
You can get it to Westbrook. You can get it to Westbrook easier if Beal was out.
Absolutely, and then or you could play Beal and pay up overspend for Beal, or you can play LeBron and Jimmy Butler. There's a lot of things you could do, but with Kelly O. But the problem is when you play those, like if I'm playing LeBron, am I really expecting LeBron to outscore Embiid enough of the time here? Now I actually think tonight may be, but I think he's still behind Embiid. I still think you'd want to play like LeBron if they were just positionless, whatever, ahead behind Embiid. But in terms of winning the position, LeBron, and also winning the position too, by the way, because there's nobody else who can really approach Embiid's ceiling. Whereas Jimmy Butler can certainly, and has shown it lately, he's been outscoring LeBron. He can certainly approach LeBron. So Embiid does stand out as being, if you're building a cash lineup, I think you start with Embiid and Kenyon Martin Jr. Over here.
Okay.
So hopefully that was helpful. I'm just going to real quick, guys, go through just some of my favorite plays, just because I think that sometimes this stuff can get confusing. And I told people I'd start doing this at the end of each thing. And Cheech, you're welcome to jump in if you want to have anything to add or anything. But guys who I have circled on DraftKings: LeBron, Embiid, Gobert, Markieff Morris, Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Jimmy Butler, Kelly Olynyk, Porter Jr. The whole Houston situation is obvious, but and then on FanDuel, Brogdon, Sabonis, Porter Jr. again. Not, by the way, I want to Kevin Porter Jr., not Otto Porter, just in case anybody gets confused, because Otto Porter is guy.
No, excuse me, but don't forget Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he's you know what I mean? Like,
my God, and Michael Porter Jr. too. I didn't even. Why didn't we think about Michael Porter Jr.?
He's really expensive, I think.
Yeah, what's going on there though? Because that's anytime you don't think about Michael Porter Jr., that tends to be when he goes off. Let me just take a quick look at what he is at 6.7. I mean, I don't know. I mean, now I'm a little bit interested in Michael Porter Jr. at literally 0% ownership, just because.
You have to play those two together.
Maybe you have to, and it's too bad Otto Porter is on a minutes restriction. He can play all three of them.
And Atlanta doesn't play now. You could play Bogdanovich. Yeah.
All brothers, the holidays.
Yes.
And one other guy I didn't mention on this is I still think Hachimura is in play. I know he's been really bad. You sort of just have to suck it up and know that it'll turn out. I think he's a guy who, like, he should be averaging between 25 and 35 a game. And it's been a really rough stretch for him. I think that we can just we know he's going to come back at some point. You're talking about a guy who will have 0 people play him, and I just want to throw him on the list of guys. But Sterling Brown also is another one over here that stood out. And one last one is what you said about Turner. And I like all of these indie guys make a lot of sense. And then I like throwing the LeBron in maybe with 2 of them on FanDuel. That's just a strategy that I would probably try and use tonight in one of my big buy-ins.
I am good for 7 tonight. I
Awesome.
just got permission, and I will see you then.
All right, guys. Hey, good luck to everyone out there. Thanks, Sheets, and hopefully we can make it a few spots further, and one of us will take it all down tonight.
Sounds good to me.